So just a few final things I just want to wrap up. So in Marvelous, I never went over the wind preferences. So if you go up to Display, Show Wind Controller, you'll get this little object here that you can click on. This is basically the wind. So if I put Simulation on, you won't see anything right now because you have to select it and you have to turn it on. So basically under Activate, instead of Off, you click On. So you can see it affect the object. Whichever way this cone is facing is where the wind is blowing. So if I turn it, you'll see it adjust it. So if I move it up, move it down, it'll be pushing it up. You can see how it affects it. They have other options under here, so instead of plane, you have spherical. It does a little difference, but I'm not exactly sure what it does. Other than the type, you also have the string, so depending how strong or light you want it, you have other options on here, decay and frequency, which I never used, and you also have turbulence, so it'll see a little jittering. It just changes it up on and off. So you could raise that up, you could lower it down. That's basically the wind function. It's easy to manipulate, easy to play around with. So if you have a cape on here or something, you want to have some life to it. If you have a bandana on here, you want it blowing in the wind. Or if you have a cape on here, just give it a little bit more life, a little bit more folds. You could play around with the wind. The next thing I was going to go over is creating a new fabric. So if you have fabric on here, if I select the fabric, put the fabric on here. Let me turn off the wind first. I'm going to hide the wind now. So after I have the fabric on here, you have the texture if you want to put an image on there. You have the color we went over. We already applied. Specular we went over. The glossiness, the shine on it, the sheen on the fabric. And you could put a specular map on there if you want also. You have the emissive color, which is basically if it'll glow at night or not. You could change that, the opacity, if you want to see through or not either. Those are the most basic ones. Under physical property, we already went over this, but I'll go over it one more time. So you have the default, which is normally set to if you have nothing applied. Next, you have all these other options. So you have the D's for this first ones, R's for the next one, and S's for the next options. D is basically the draft simulation, so it's the fastest simulation to have. Next, you have the S ones on the bottom, simulation. Simulation are used more on non-fabric, so like buttons, heavy leather, like belts and stuff like that, you could use it on. And then finally, you have R, which is reality. So the R is for reality, which is heavier on the computer than the draft quality ones. So you could apply these on. It might make your computer run a little bit slower. I never really noticed a difference, but that's up to you. But you have all these default fabrics set in here. But if you go with the default one, you could also go under detail, which you can mess with any of these settings, so you can get the settings like they did on the settings they have preset on here. And if you set those, you'll see how this changes. So you can make your own fabrics if you want. If you know everything, it's up to you. So you have the two stretch options here, weft and warp. So weft is the horizontal stretch on the fabric, so going left to right. The warp is basically the vertical stretch, so from the top to bottom it's pulling it. You just play with the settings. Most of the settings are, both these are set to the same. Some of them are different. So I believe it's knit, so they have a little bit different settings for the weft and warp. But you could play with these settings as you need. The one that you might find most interesting is the density. To me, it feels like if it's a heavy cloth, it'll hang down. If it's a lighter garment, it'll be a little bit more softer, a little bit lighter. So this one I mess with occasionally, depending on what you want to create. And you can just play around with these settings and just see what happens. I didn't upgrade to the new Marvelous, so I don't know the new functions as of yet. Every new function they add into the new Marvelous Designer, they usually put up on their website. So when you go to their website, you could see a quick rundown of how it works. And you can figure it out from there. You could load it up and play with it yourself to see how you can make it work in your pipeline. But that should be everything. So hopefully it'll make your production pipeline a lot faster, a lot cleaner. Thanks guys for your patience. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and have fun.